guests here this evening. So I'm joined to the right of me, I'm joined by Mr. Greg Chambers, and right down below me, I'm joined also by Mr. Ji-Sung Doug, and to the right of Doug, we are joined by Reese. And so today we're here to talk about a lot of things concerning Manchester United here today. Obviously, the international break is still among us at the minute. We're just on the last night of the break. Luckily, this weekend, Manchester United are back. So, I suppose for me being an Ireland fan, I'm fucking delighted that the international break is literally over and done with. It's been a rough week for us Irish. Obviously, Scotland are playing now, they're 1-0 up, so I think Greg and Reese are quite happy as well with their exploits this international break and also tonight. But more or less, we're here to talk all things Manchester United. Tonight was meant to be a call-in show, but obviously there's been a lot of breaking news kind of in the last couple of hours, in the last 24 hours. So I've decided, obviously, to move ahead and actually, let's talk all things Manchester United and let's get straight into it. Now, obviously, the biggest news, I suppose, out of any international break when Manchester United are concerned is Mr. Paul Pogba. Mino Raiola has again decided in his free time during this international break to open his mouth and talk about Manchester United. He was insulting Sir Alex Ferguson. He was more or less saying that Sir Alex hating him is the biggest honour that you can have in football. I don't know how that can be. Also, Mino Raiola was talking about Paul Pogba is basically done at Manchester United and they're trying to find him a new club. And it was just, again, the same old Mino Raiola shit show that you get during an international break. Greg, going to come to you first. Again, international break. And same old Mino Raiola open his mouth when he shouldn't be. How are you feeling about these comments, especially considering we're coming towards the run?
Yeah, well, as you said, it's not something we're used to now with Raiola when it comes around to international break. He always likes to get his piece in, especially about Pogba. What he's got to accept now, and what I think he is accepting, is that Pogba's not the crown jewel that he has anymore. That's Haaland. So he's got to try and drum up any way he can to get people talking about Paul Pogba, because no one's actually talking about him, because very few clubs actually care. Paul Pogba's not, like I say, he's not Raiola's be-all and end-all, and he's not seen as the be-all and end-all of world football anymore, and that's seen as being sort of Mbappe and Haaland, and that's who the big teams are going to chase and who they're going to save their money for. But it's just nonsense, isn't it? I think if it was said a couple of years ago, I'd worry about Pogba coming back into the team and everything like that. But he showed after the last time when he ran his mouth that when Pogba came back in, he was absolutely excellent for us and has been all season when he's played. Came back in against Milan, was fantastic for us as well. So, yeah, and I think most Man United fans have sort of accepted that we need to win something this year to keep Pogba. But we might get away with the fact that it's a sort of, obviously still in the pandemic and everything like that. Maybe teams don't want to spend that. And if you're a team like a Real Madrid or anyone like that, and you can maybe not spend 60, 70 million on Paul Pogba, and you can save that to go and get Haaland or Mbappe, then I feel like you do that. I feel like there's, because of how good and because there's all these teams linked with Mbappe and Haaland and players like that, there's very few teams that are actually probably wanting Paul Pogba. Juventus maybe being one of them, but they would need to get rid of Ronaldo, you would imagine, to sort of fit financially. The two Spanish clubs, their struggle financially. Would he go to PSG? Yeah, maybe he would. But yeah, it's what you expect from Raiola, but I'm not that worried about sort of what he said.
Yeah, look, for me, again, it's just what you expect in international break. It's kind of like when international break comes, it's kind of, you're playing like the Mino Raiola sweepstakes, aren't you? You're thinking, what's he going to come out and say this time? Who is he going to link Pogba with? Is he going to link him with Real Madrid? Is he going to link him with Juventus? Is he going to insult Sir Alex? Is he going to, do so on and so forth? And I think at this stage, now we just kind of have to say, look, whilst Mino Raiola is Pogba's agent, we're just going to have to deal with it until the end of the season at least, and kind of assess where we are then with the Paul Pogba situation. I think, look, since he's come back into the side this season, especially post Leipzig, he was been our best player. He was our best player when we got top of the league earlier on in January this season. You obviously look at Joe Pogba in the respect when he came back in against AC Milan, literally probably a 50% fit Paul Pogba came in. He was the best player on the pitch whilst playing out of position. So, Like, look, I look at this and I say, you keep this man at the football club. I think you have to do everything you can to keep him at the football club if you want to progress. Obviously, his agent is a stumbling block. But again, like, I think with a player of Paul Pogba's quality, I think you have to keep him at the football club, because we're going to get to the owners later on in the show. Trust me, that's coming. But can you trust this board to replace Paul Pogba if you sell him? Because I was always thinking about a situation in my head today. Literally, do you know, like, I was sitting down and having my breakfast this morning, right? And I was thinking just about today's show. And it kind of hit me in the head. I was like, do you know what? United will get rid of Paul Pogba this summer, and then we'll sign the defensive midfielder that we need to accommodate Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. That's the way this club runs. We do probably backwards. We get the defensive midfielder after we get rid of our best defensive midfielder. So, like, look, I look at this and I say, you do everything you can to keep Paul Pogba at the football club. You make him commit to this football club if you can. You do your absolute best to keep the man at the football club. And you keep Pogba and you keep Bruno Fernandes in this team. It's integral to success. I think you get that defensive midfield player in. That's my opinion with regards to that. But Doug, I'm going to come to you with regards to Raiola's comments. Obviously, very disrespectful again towards Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, Sir Alex Ferguson and Mino Raiola aren't the best of buddies. For you, kind of what are you thinking about the Mino Raiola comments this week when he kind of came out and basically said Pogba's time at United is more or less done?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before, as you were just kind of alluding to and Greg talked about, right? And what I think is, it's obviously super disrespectful to the club, especially last time he did it was right before a big game. We all saw what happened with that. And so I don't really know. Obviously, I don't think any of us do understand Pogba's relationship to Raiola, right? But I'd have to imagine at some point somebody at United, whether it's Ali, whether it's Woodward, whether it's whoever, really needs to talk to Pogba and say, like, you need to start to manage your manager a little bit more, or because, you know, it's not acceptable that he can just go and say these things and kind of put the club and everybody in the club in sort of this disarray. Because think about the locker room as well, right? Like, now everybody there is going to be wondering, we're coming back. We've got a big April ahead of us. We've got Europa League to play for. We've got top four to continue to play for. And it's like, it was fine when everything was quiet from Raiola and from Pogba, because people were gelling. There wasn't this whole thing, he's going to leave, is he going to stay? Like, we were just playing. And now we're coming up on the end of the season. Again, big final couple months going on here. And to have him come out again right before we start playing games again at the weekend and say, well, he's not staying. Like, that just throws everything off. Like, it throws off what Solskjaer probably wants to do. It throws off the locker room vibes. He's going to come back in. You know, I'd have to imagine people are going to be asking him, like, what's going on? Bruno's probably not happy because he's pretty much the only other creative midfielder that we have. So he's going, what the hell? So, again, it's just really shitty timing from Raiola to come out and say these things. And I would have to imagine there has to be somebody at United that can tell Pogba to have a conversation with him to just be like, dude, can it until the fucking end of the season, because
I don't know.
we have stuff to love to play for. Like, this isn't helpful. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just super
like,
disrespectful.
I think it's massively disrespectful. But I think one thing you have to consider here is, has Mino Raiola ever been a respectful individual? No.
He hasn't, but at the same time, you as a player need to manage who your agent is, right? And like, Pogba, obviously, to Greg's point, even if he wants to leave, it doesn't look good to other clubs when your agent's out there doing this. Like, who, aside from the wages that he's on and everything else, who really is going to want to have to deal with this clown every single time? Like, I understand that he has Haaland and he's got, you know, Pogba and he has Zlatan and all these other people, but at some stage, I understand that he thinks he's bigger than the clubs are, but he's not. And like, at some stage, the clubs will start to be like, no way, none of us want to do business with this guy. And now the players are going to be like, it's not beneficial for me to be in bed with this guy, so I'm going to get rid of him. So really, he does need to do his clients a service by not saying stuff, because otherwise, none of these other clubs are going to want to actually pay for them, even if they can't afford them.
Yeah, like, look, he's a parasite. I think Sir Alex Ferguson, he said it best in his book, The Mino Raiola. That's literally what he is. He's a parasite. And look, I think it's all just noise at the minute. Again, I think we should, like, look ahead. And obviously, take this running as seriously as we can, because look, we've obviously still have second place to fight for. We've Leicester City on our backs for second place, literally. Like, obviously, we have the Europa League doubleheader against Granada. We've Spurs in the Premier League. We've Brighton. So, like, Joe, we've a lot of tough games come up. Reece, just briefly, do you feel any different to what the lads said when Raiola came out and dispelled his usual bullshit on international break?
Nah, I don't feel any different at all, mate. I think it's the exact same circumstance. I think we can all agree in terms of what Riola's achieved in football, in terms of like his agency status, he's up there. Like in terms of like the best to go for representation. It's just his attitude that's like he's not the type of agent I would want to do business with. I'd rather do business with Jorge Mendes. I think he's a more approachable client. He's never really had an issue with clubs as well. Like he's very reputable. I don't know why Raiola has to think he's the be-all and end-all. He's not. But I also agree about the Pogba comments as well. Like spot on by Greg and Doug as well. Like the whole Pogba concept. Like Pogba's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but it's just his attitude at times. It really is questionable, and it does make you wonder how committed is he to Man United. Like if he's 100% committed, he would shut down his agent. He would shut him down in a heartbeat. If he wasn't as committed, he would let him constantly do what he's doing, and he would let his brother keep talking as well, because his brother used to open his mouth 24/7. I haven't heard him speak in ages as well. But he needs to realistically show some authority when it comes to Raiola, because he pays Raiola to manage him. So I don't know why he's still letting this continuously happen every international break, because it's more than just recurring. It's repetitive. It's damaging. Like for Pogba's reputation, it's damaging the club's reputation. In a way, it also damages his. I don't think he even notices that.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with regards to it, and again, it just boils down to a collective, doesn't it? Like obviously his agent himself, and I think that this is where we have to obviously say this is where this summer is so crucial. Like, do United sell him and get paid for him this summer, or does he go next year on a free? That's the big question. I think. United, like not even United fans, like we pride ourselves on success, right? All four of us here as Manchester United fans, we support the club. We've been brought through success down the years. The board at Manchester United, they pride themselves on profit and they pride themselves on financial gain, right? That's what the higher
social media status.
Yeah, social media status, financial gain, all that type of stuff, right? So you actually take this into consideration. Manchester United this summer, right? They're going to either A, Pogba's either going to sign a new deal, or B, he doesn't, right? And if they sell him this summer, they get a fee from him. If they don't sell him this summer, he's going next summer for free. Now let's take this into consideration, right? This is a player that we've let go from the academy under the Glazer ownership, free of charge, more or less. And then we paid £89 million to bring Paul Pogba back to the football club. And now next summer, Manchester United risk leaving an £89 million player go for free. In Ed Woodward's mind, being an investment banker and all that bullshit, he's making an £89 million loss. The Glazers and Ed Woodward, they don't pride themselves on that. So you'd call into question either if he's not part of the club's future, there needs to be a deal done ASAP, or if he is, you get that contract signed for Paul Pogba and you get him to commit to the club. Because either way, both will have to make financial sense. Because at the end of the day, we'll need funds to improve the squad as well. So I think this summer, I think a big decision has to be made. Personally, I want Paul Pogba to stay. I want Paul Pogba to stay at this football club. He's a quality footballer. I don't think there's a midfielder out there we can actually replace him with that would probably be as good as him. To be quite honest, when he's on form, I saw Scotland score there again, but like on form, like when Paul Pogba's on form, there's probably it isn't a midfielder in world football aside of Kevin De Bruyne that's as good as him on his day. And that, that's the reality.
I think if you replace him, I think if you're replacing him, like if you move Pogba on, you replace him with a different type of player. I think you don't go for the playmaker type. I think you potentially go for a box-to-box midfielder. And you put in a box-to-box player in that midfield, like a Goretzka or a Valverde or anyone that plays that type of role. But you're spot on. Like in terms of quality, it is hard to replace a player like Pogba. The quality it's very evident. Like he is very good. It's just I don't want to keep a player who is not 100% committed to the club I've supported since I was a young boy. That's not what this club's about. This club is about players that fight for the badge. It's all about working ways to success, promoting young players, like having that big connection with the fans, because the fans know what they want, and the fans want success, but they want to see exciting football. And Pogba's an exciting player, but if he's not committed to the club, you have to move him on. And if we lose him on a free, that is not just poor business, that is criminal business. That's sackable.
Yeah, that's
a sackable offence.
It strikes me that Ollie and Pogba have quite a good relationship, though. Like, I'm more confident of Pogba signing a new deal under Ollie than I am sort of when he was under Van Gaal or Mourinho, especially Mourinho. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
like he just.
I think
if we had any manager, sort of like if we had any manager. So if we had like Van Gaal at the time, if we're in that situation where we're sat here with Louis Van Gaal as our manager, then I couldn't see Pogba sort of re-signing. But I feel like he's got a good, real close relationship with Ollie. I feel like he gets on with Bruno really well as well. I saw that comment as well about Bruno being hard to keep, but no one's paying 120 million for Bruno Fernandes, and Man United aren't selling for any less than 100. So,
well, I kind of want to see.
I think you only see Bruno move on. I think you'll only see Bruno move on if he doesn't see any signs of commitment in terms of like why he's here. I think that's the only reason. Yeah. So, like, say like 2 years and there's no commitment to, we're bringing in some top quality players to flood the team to challenge. Then potentially you'll see Bruno move on. About 90 to 120 million. It'll be something like that. It will not be anything less than that. But I don't see him moving on unless there's commitment.
Yeah, I actually think that if I'm Pogba, right, I don't think he's gonna. I think he isn't gonna sign anything. And I think that the kind of the crappy thing is that we have the Euros coming up this summer, obviously because he was delayed, which sucks because now he's gonna go off to France. But realistically, I can't imagine how happy he is. Even if he likes Solskjaer as a manager, as a person, whatever, I can't imagine he's super thrilled about having to play out on the wing, right? And so if Ollie continues to have to do this whole thing of playing McTominay and Fred next to each other because of Lindelof and Maguire in the back, and let's say that Pogba has talked with whoever within the club and has an understanding of roughly what they're planning on going after. If his future is going to continue to play sometimes in the pivot, sometimes as a winger, I don't think he's going to be thrilled. And then you couple that with the fact that if Chelsea gets better, if Liverpool get better, if City improve and get even better, we're not going to be in a position to get titles. And so if I'm Pogba and I'm hearing all of these things kind of into the summertime, I'm going, you've got to either sell me or I'm leaving next year. And then the same thing goes with what you guys just said with Bruno, right? He's going to be like, there's no future here. Like, yes, I want to be here. That's not the question. The bigger question is, when are we going to win things? Because I came here to win. I didn't come here to get fourth.
Yeah,
and not really
Bruno
do
his time though. I feel like he's not going to be. Doesn't seem. I don't think he'd be the type of player. Because bear in mind, Bruno's like 27 in October or August. Like he's 27 this year. It's not like he's 22, 23. Like. The move that he gets away from Man United, if he leaves Man United, is going to be his last big move. So it's going to be a lot of money, and for him, it's got to be to a club that's going to win things as well, because he's not going to get that chance later on. And I just feel like Bruno's going to give the club a chance, because there was obviously that story that the Daily Mail decided to make a big thing out of, that Bruno was taking control of like who they wanted to bring in. Is it, well, yeah, obviously, like you ask your best players that he wants to play with, or players that he thinks might help the team. That's what clubs do. You ask your best players. So it wouldn't. I feel like Bruno will be patient. Obviously, he won't be here for 3-4 years not winning anything. But I also feel like he knows that it's not an overnight job, and there's a lot of things wrong, a lot of things that need improving in the squad before this team sort of wins things and challenges to win things. But we have gotten better since he came in. So. We've been so much better since he came in, actually, that it shows that there is that jump is there if you get the signings right. So I think Bruno will know that, and he'll be patient, especially if it's Ollie that's in charge. It just seems like the players, because even when we get beat, it's not like when we were under Mourinho when we were getting beaten. It looked like the players weren't playing for him. It looks like the players are playing for Ollie. It just looks like there's a gap. There's something lacking between what the manager wants them to do and what the players are actually capable of. But And God, I hope
I'm going to come to a comment here from Ellis. I'm just going to come to. I know I'm not going to ask Greg about this comment because he has an agenda against Van de Beek, so I'm not going to go there.
I don't have an agenda. He's just not the second coming. He's just not as good as everyone thinks he is. I'm going to
come to this comment. I'm going to come to this comment here from Ellis. I'm not going to direct it towards Greg because I know his opinion on Van de Beek, and I'm going to leave that there. But I'm going to come to Reese with this comment here. Ellis from the Spectacle View says, if Pogba leaves, does this pave the way for Donny as a number 8 and bring in a single pivot 6 in the summer who can do the job in McFredden 1?
I think if you do move Pogba on, it's a good chance for Van de Beek, at least to prove what he's capable of. My only worry is he's still not fully adapted to the English league. I think you would have to make a signing first to come in, and that signing isn't just to fight with him, but it's also to see if he can actually adapt, because it might just be the type of player that we have. It just doesn't work with him. But I think he deserves a chance to be given as a starter if Pogba moves on. I mean, he was bought for 40 million. Either you give him a chance or you move him on. It feels like it's been money wasted at the moment, because he's not been given enough time. But mind you, people say, "Oh, he's not adapted to the league. Oh, he's getting very little time from the bench." Well, yeah, but you can't adapt by getting 15 minutes every single time and then only training. You need to be given at least 60, 70 minutes. Say again?
Yeah, I think the problem with Van de Beek at the moment is he's not getting enough game time to adjust to the league. If you're playing 1 or 2 games a month, realistically, right, you're not going to get a chance to adapt to league, adapt to the playing style of the league, and also adapt to your teammates and adapt to the way they play. If you're playing 15 minutes here, 15 minutes here twice a month, realistically, right, you're not going to adapt. I think Donny needs to stay an extra season and see where he's at next year. I think, in terms of that, especially if we get a defensive midfield player in the summer, I think that's very integral to Van de Beek getting integrated into the squad and actually.
Because he's still early 20s as well. He's still in his early 20s, so he's not even near his prime years yet. So he's still got a good chance to show what he's capable of. He just needs a run of games and plenty of minutes behind him to show what he's got. Because he's done it for Ajax. He's done it in the Champions League for Ajax as well. He's played well for us in the Champions League. He's done well for Holland when he's played. So just give him a bit of run of games, see what he can do.
See, Keane knows I'm a big Donny fan. And I think
that hurts.
I'm a big fan of him because I think he's highly, highly intelligent, and you can tell. I kind of know where some Keane sits on some of this, but I'm not a big fan of the way that we play, and I don't know if it's down to the personnel that we have. I don't know if it's down to the tactics that we run. And I know that Solskjaer has said recently or more recently, he's not necessarily in charge of some of the tactics, right? He leaves some of that to Phelan and Carrick and some of the other guys. But I'm not a huge fan of the way that we play a lot, and I think that inhibits a lot of the way that Donny plays, because he's very much a high press, win the ball, quick 1-2 passing, and move around a lot. I see Greg's face right now, but I'm just saying, look at the way we play. We are donkey shit slow moving from the back to the front.
Greg looks like he wants to.
I agree with everything.
Greg looks like he's loading the shit.
He runs about to press. But I agree with everything else. He's knocking it about. He needs to be in finding gaps, but I just don't think he does it. I just don't think he works hard enough to find the gaps. Fair. Because he's been so good in that Ajax team where the gaps open up for you because you're Ajax and you're against PEC Zwolle and teams like that who are just rubbish.
Listen, some of it does boil down to competition. It does boil down to competition. I won't disagree with that. But what I'm saying is you could tell that he's a very intelligent player. And again, it might just be down to the personnel that we have that limits our ability to move from the back to the front so quickly, right? So again, with a personnel change, you can keep the same coaching staff and take it in place. Maybe it's just the personnel. In which case, if we lose Pogba, but we change out some personnel, we get some better people in, we actually get a CDM that works, a good center back. Maybe the style of play changes enough to where Van de Beek can do the things that he needs to do and be as efficient with Bruno also in the midfield role as well, because we do need we don't, in my opinion, having 2 Brunos is nice, but we don't need 2 Brunos, because then, to be honest with you, we'd be losing possession like crazy, because Bruno, while he's fantastic and by far our best player, he plays a lot of risky passes. So we do need somebody who's going to be a little bit more controlling play a little bit more within himself, use people to connect back to front, and play a better brand while allowing Bruno to do the things he wants to do.
So if you do that, then on the grounds of that means you're going to have to bring in someone who is. You talk about control, so that means you're going to need a central defensive midfielder that is a controlling player. Yeah, but you're also going to need a type of centre back like that as well. And I don't think Solskjaer likes that type of centre back, because if we had a controlling centre back, we would probably have won a league title by now. Because those are the defenders that are actually winning new titles right now.
Did anyone notice Greg had a little technical difficulty on his handle there? I see when he froze. He looked like when he froze. He looked constipated. Yeah, I didn't know what happened there, but Greg had a little technical glitch. I seen Donny Chambers came up on his on his name. I hope you got that sorted out, Greg.
I think he can be good. I just think for about 3 months, all anyone ever tweeted me when I complained about Man United was Donny should be starting. And then he came on against Southampton when we were 4-0 up and they were down to 10 men, and he just stood still. And I was like, you're not going to get a better chance in Premier League football to go out there and prove yourself. You're not going to lose that game. You're down to 10 men. We ended up beating them 9, and I could have, if he didn't have blonde hair, I couldn't have known he was on the pitch. I think he's got a place in the squad. I just don't think he's as good as everyone thinks he is, that he can start for Man United and single-handedly win his games. There's nothing wrong with buying squad players. I think people have gotten a real issue about us buying squad players. Everyone we buy has to be a starter.
I don't think he's. I don't. Here's
we nearly bought John McGinn.
I don't know if he needed to start, but he definitely deserved and needed to get more playing time in general. Starting, I'd kind of agree with you. I don't know if he needed to start as much as people are saying he needed to start.
Yeah.
But to play the amount of minutes that he's played, given the injuries and given the team that we have, it's appalling that we haven't played him at least more.
Yeah, I think maybe it's the personnel behind him, obviously not having the defensive mid and things. I just don't think Ollie trusts what's behind them.
Yeah.
And Ollie's, to be fair to Ollie, he's been quite good at taking players out the firing line, because the first thing that would have happened if Van de Beek was put in really early and we were making mistakes, it would have been Van de Beek getting abused to come out the team, because he's not a player that sort of Ollie trusts and isn't used to sort of being there. He did that with Reece James. He took him out the firing line for so long, and then Reece James has come back in and been, I think, brilliant. So maybe Ollie just needs the right personnel sort of as a defensive midfielder. I think he is starting to, and then obviously another centre back as well. And then maybe we get to see Donny play a little bit more, because we have that one defensive midfielder, and you can play Donny and someone else.
Just inject. I'm going to interject here, and I'm going to say just inject us. We're a defensive midfielder, whether it's Declan Rice, Zakaria, anyone like that, just a competent defensive midfielder who can play football. That's not Fred. Anyway. Moving on,
I think
from
we might go
Pogba.
I think there's a chance we might go internal. As much as I would like someone brought in, I think they might look internal. I don't know if they'll send James Garner out on loan. I think they honestly might give him a chance next season. I've got nothing against that. Or even Ethan Galbraith. I think they're both fantastic midfielders. I just don't know if it's the right time. But then again, you say when is the right time if you don't give them a chance? I think realistically, if you don't give Garner a chance, you send him out.
If we be honest here, though, guys, and this is where we need to be honest here, right?
Absolutely.
Let's all be honest with each other here. This situation. Where do we need to be? Challenging for the league, right? That's where we want to be. You need to have elite players. You can't bring a young player into an already inexperienced squad and expect for him to have an impact. Do you know what I mean?
Maddison and Leicester.
That's not an experienced squad. He got coached into a good player, though. He had Ndidi and Tielemans.
He was in a squad that won the Premier League 2 years previous, and the majority of that squad was still there.
No, he wasn't.
Well, he was in the squad, but he was in the squad. Yeah, he joined the season after they won it, but even so, there's still experience. But
I think
it depends on who you look for.
Yeah, and I feel like in terms of personally, if it meant bringing Garner in and trying him out there, and then it meant buying a genuine top centre half, I think I'd probably take that, because we're not going to go and buy 3 or 4 positions this summer. So if it meant, okay, you promote Galbraith or Garner internally, and one of them plays defensive midfield, but you go out and spend 70 million on Koundé or something like that, I think most Man United fans take that.
Once we're short up the back, it allows us to play.
Yeah,
or even look
but
to the free agent
Garner
side.
does a better
or even
job
look,
than Fred, and that's really all we're looking for. We're not looking, or we think
Yeah.
he will. We're not looking for. Obviously, it'd be great to be able to go and get to be able to go and spend 200 million on 3 different positions, but we're not going to be able to. So really, just an upgrade is what we're looking for. And Garner, he'll get time as well by the fan base because he's one of our own. He'll be allowed that odd error or the lack of an experience. He'll get the time because we always give them that time. Rashford got it when he first came in after his hot streak sort of went away, right at the start of his career. He got that time, still given time by the fans and by the manager because he was one of our own. So it wouldn't be the worst shout in the world to promote internally if it meant helping out other positions, I don't think.
I think the other thing as well is that I don't necessarily think we'll spend money. We could go and we could look out. If we don't necessarily have to spend money, like, there's always a free agent market because there's some really good players that are going out of contract. And I'm not going to mention the one that's leaving Man City, but the one I'm thinking about plays for Bayern. Like, will no longer be playing for Bayern Munich at the end of the summer, and that's David Alaba. He's yet to confirm where he's going. He's not signed anywhere yet, as far as I'm aware.
That's more or less done at the Real Madrid, though, to be fair.
If he ends up there, then fair play to him. If he ends up there, it's a great deal for both of them. But he's another one we could easily jump in because we already nicked Van de Beek off them, so we've got previous.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think we'll be the last club David Alaba goes to. Nor does he want to come to Manchester United and play alongside Harry Maguire when he can play alongside Sergio Ramos or Rafael Varane.
Yeah,
anyway, I was going to move on.
Ramos for like a year.
Yeah, but I'm going to move on just from obviously Van de Beek because that's obviously a subject we could talk about all night in terms of game time, in terms of qualities and stuff like that. We're going to talk about now. You talked about internal players and Manchester United promoting internally. We're also talking about players who are also still technically speaking in contract at Manchester United, even though they're not at the club at the minute. There's talk at the moment the player that's in fantastic form at West Ham, Jesse Lingard. There's talk for him getting a new contract at Manchester United and potentially coming back from the loan deal. For me, this screams unambitious. I love Lingard. Again, I've got on record and say I'm happy for him what he's doing at West Ham. He's playing fantastically well, and I think he's a player who deserves all the accolades that he's getting at West Ham. But for me, I think it smells desperation. For me, it smells penny pinching that we're bringing a player back that was surplus to requirements. Doug, I'm going to come to you first. Obviously, look, we're all happy for Lingard, the fact he's performing well though at West Ham. He seems to be getting his mojo back there. But what do you make of these reports that we're going to be looking at giving him a new contract and obviously bringing him back into the fold next season?
He's not going to. I mean, he's not going to start. Like, he's not going to start. So, really, if I'm, let's look selfishly if I'm him, there's a reason that I got called back up into England, right? And it's not because I play for Manchester United anymore. It's because I went to West Ham. I was able to start. I'm able to show what I can do, and I'm able to play. So if I'm him, I wouldn't even necessarily want to come back. Like, I would actually be asking to be sold because he's not going to play. And at his age and for where he's at in his career, he can't. Like, he's just going to sit on the bench and he'll get a handful of games and a handful of minutes, but he's not going to be as effective. And also, he's already enough of a big personality off the pitch that he doesn't need to be at a club like this and also have the demands of like what it means to be a Manchester United player. That's where I think a lot of like somebody like Dan James as well, right? Like, I'm not a huge fan of Dan James in general, but overall, I look at Dan James and I go, I think the expectations that were put on him being a Manchester United player now are a lot for somebody of his age and of his ability, right? Where I think if we had sent him on loan and even sent him to like Leeds or something like that, you could have seen a different player. The expectations would have been lower on him. I think he would have played more freely. And I think you actually probably would have seen a better Dan James than what you're seeing with us right now. And he's not playing terrible lately, but I think all of us can maybe agree his skill set is a little limited. So if I'm Jesse Lingard taking it back to him, I wouldn't want to come back personally. Like, I'd be like, it's better for my career to stay in West London and hang out in West Ham.
Yeah, for me, look, I'm in the boat. Like, look, I'm a huge Jesse Lingard fan. I think he's done great things at the club in terms of big goals and big games. And I think, like, look, I talked about this actually on the pod back in December before the transfer window actually opened. More to offer to the squad than Dan James. Do you know? I think he's a better footballer than Dan James, more in his arsenal than Dan James. But the thing about this is, and I need to be honest here, again, he's not going to start ahead of Marcus Rashford on the left. He's not going to start ahead of Bruno. Not going to start ahead of Pogba, especially if we're looking at playing two offensive midfielders. Right wing is questionable, but I'd still probably rather start Greenwood there. I'd probably rather play Greenwood there if he's going to play there. So for me, I look at this and say, like, Jesse Lingard, yes, he'd be a good squad player, but for him getting back into the England squad, you have to say, for his ambition, he probably should stay at West Ham or even move on to a different club if the West Ham move doesn't become permanent. Maybe he looks at an Everton or he looks at a Leicester, or even, I'm going to throw this out there now, even an Arsenal. Someone like that, who he'd go into a team and he'd start every week. He needs to obviously go to a club he's going to play every week. Now, look, if he comes back to United and scores big goals and big games and he makes the Emirates his dance floor one more time, look, I fucking love that. Honest to God, I'd love him to see him make the Emirates his dance floor one more time. But realistically, I think for me, he has to move on. Like, he's on £100,000 a week. Can you really have a player playing a handful of games a year on £100,000 a week? Do you know what I mean? The other squad players tend to be looking for that much money every week too, and that sets a precedent within the squad in terms of wages and in terms of a mentality within the team. So, look, for me, while I'm a massive Jesse Lingard fan, I think he should move on in the summer. And look, I wish him all the best because, like, again, he's given me good memories at the club. Like, you look at the goals against Palace, EFL Cup final, which I was at. He scored against Arsenal at the Emirates a couple of times, which drove their fan base nuts. You look at the goal against Chelsea in the league, Everton away. And even remember that game against Watford when he ran the pitch basically and scored. So, like, he scored many like kind of iconic goals at the club. So, like, for me, I'd like to see him move on, obviously get into the England squad again, which I think he's going to get in ahead of Maddison this summer because Maddison's been out for a long stretch of time in the Euros and Lingard's playing well and Southgate trusts him. So I think definitely you see Lingard going to the Euros this summer. But I'm just going to move on from that with regards to Lingard, with regards to that situation, because that's obviously a contract situation that we don't know what's going to happen with that permanently. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? But there's been talks in Sky Sports with regards to that situation. I'm just going to come to another player that's in a contract dispute with Manchester United at the moment. A player who's, in my opinion, he's done okay at the club. He hasn't done massively fantastic. Is Edison Cavani. Again, 34 years of age. He's had his fair share of injury problems this season. Though Ed Woodward and John Murtaugh basically talked to him this week and they're after offering him a new contract. Cavani doesn't really want to sign it. Greg, I'm going to come to you first because I know you have respect for Cavani. Where do you sit in this? Do we even consider offering him a contract? Because in my opinion, you don't. He's 34 years of age. He's injury prone. And why do you offer him a year or 2 year contract? Because he hasn't really done it many times this season.
Yeah, you offer him the 2 year contract because when he plays, he's the best goal scorer in the club. Like, he's better than Martial in terms of scoring goals. If he can stay fit, then yeah, that's always a thing. Like, it's always hard, especially at the age he is, if he is able to stay fit. But at the end of the day, if he wants to stay, I feel like you've got to offer him a new contract. Like, you don't get a player like Edison Cavani with the quality and the experience, and you need that sort of. It's great having a young team that can run about and press every team in the world and everything like that. But we saw it in the Southampton game this season, what that little bit of experience did, just his movement, just knowing where the ball's going to drop and being 2 steps ahead of everyone. We saw how beneficial that was for United. So if he wants to stay, I feel like it's silly not offering him a contract. I don't think we should keep Martial personally. So if that was what we were doing, then I would keep Cavani for a stopgap year and then try and go for a striker next summer. And then you could always have like Greenwood through the middle with Cavani if you were to bring in a proper right winger. But yeah, I just think, I think if he wants to stay, you've got to keep him because he's the best finisher at the club. like he just says he'll score goals if he can get on the pitch and stay fit. So yeah,
that's the key thing though. Like he's missed a fair share of games this season with injury. So like I think that's
so is Pogba.
Well, look at the impact Pogba made this season. Cavani, man, come on. That's not even the comparison.
I know that, but I'm saying like in terms of like the time missed, like Cavani's missed. He missed quite a few games. Pogba's obviously missed quite a few games. In terms of their positions, are the two best at the club if you were to put in their position. So I feel like you want to keep both of them regardless of the injury because you need them to. You just try and hope you can keep them fit. And we could be saying this all in vain because if Cavani wants to go play in South America, then there's not much Man United can do about it because he signed a 1-year deal at the end of the day. So yeah, if he wants to go, then absolutely we'll just let him go. But I feel like if he wants to stay, regardless of his injury concerns and things like that, we keep him.
Yeah, look, I'm kind of on the fence with it because obviously he's 34 years of age. Like your injuries don't improve, your body doesn't improve at that age. If anything, it's deteriorating at this level. And to be fair, like what does that do for Greenwood's development next season if he stays? You know, like how many games is Greenwood going to play up front next season? Do you know what I mean? I think that's
Greenwood's probably 3 or 4 years, at least 3 years away from playing through the middle for Man United in general. Because even if Martial's at the club, it's not going to matter because Greenwood won't start ahead of Martial up front. Like Greenwood will be pushed out to the right and Martial will start up front. I feel like Martial's more of a barrier for Greenwood starting than Cavani would be being in and being a mentor, especially these young players. I feel like Martial is more of a block to stop him playing games, whereas Cavani's got that, like I say, he's got that experience and he's that older head in the dressing room to sort of guide what is a very young team. That's obviously improving and trying to go about things the right way. But if we were to get rid of Martial and have just Cavani and Greenwood, I feel like they probably start the same amount of games. If you saying both of them are fit.
Yeah, I'm just going to come to the comments. I'm just going to a question here. I was going to get direct this to Reese. He said, question: if you win the Europa League, what do you reckon would be the priority trophy? The Premier League or the Champions League?
Both.
Next season.
Both. We're Man United. You should be fighting for every available trophy you compete for. Not one or the other. Nah. We're not Leicester City. We're not Liverpool. We're bigger than both of them scum clubs. We're not Man City either. We can actually win the big one. Like, frankly, my opinion, regardless, you go for.
You've just cursed that now. I'm telling you now. You just said we're not Man City. We're the big one. If they win the Champions League, there's blood in your hands.
They won't. Trust me, they won't win it. I can honestly, I'll bet my soul on it.
If they win the Champions League, there's blood in your hands. There's blood in your hands.
I will bet my soul on it. They will not win the Champions League. If they win it in a couple of years, at least a couple of years from now, at least it's not this season. They won't win it this year. They won't win a quadruple. Frankly, I don't think they'll win that final that's coming up very soon.
We will come back to this moment at the end of the season. Reese bet his soul, guys. Remember, he sold us. Hopefully not. Hopefully, he won't be sold us by the end of the season. Let's hope not.
Sorry, my soul will probably get taken when we get to the Euros if Scotland are shite against England. So that's probably when the soul will probably be removed. But for
Absolutely.
now, I honestly think, going back to Anto's question, why should you prioritise the Champions League over the Premier League? Why should you prioritise the Premier League over the Champions League? Go for both. If you can win both, it shows how good you are as a team. I know, I've just seen quality. If you prioritise one over the other, it's not good enough. For me, I want both. I want the fact, yes, we were the best team in the league, and we were the best team in the best knockout competition in club football. You go for both.
Yeah, I think I'm just waiting to see the Scotland goal here now.
Wait for it.
That was a good goal, yeah. That's a nice header now.
John McGinn with the double.
John McGinn, yeah. But anyway, look, for me, when you're Manchester United, you want to be fighting for every trophy, every big trophy. That's the standard. That's the standard that's been set at this football club. Again, can you trust the owners to provide any manager with the platform to do that? You don't. But when you look at this, if you're in the Champions League, you do your best to compete in the competition, if not win it. The Premier League, you want to win that every season. Now, frankly, we haven't won it in 7 years now. Do you know what I mean? So 7-8 years actually. So when you look at that, you have to say, like, this is where we want to be. It's just whether the platform is provided to us to do that. When you obviously look at the Glazers, they're pumping. Obviously, Doug would know this better than probably the three of us here. Like, in terms of the Glazer ownership, like in the Buccaneers, they seem to be pumping a lot of money and a lot of investment in there, and they seem to be obviously not taking the amount of money they're taking out of Man United, into the Buccaneers. But like, I'm just gonna obviously, Doug, I'm actually going to question you about that, actually, because I know you spoke on Adam's show kind of recently, with regards to kind of the Glazers and kind of what their plans are with the Buccaneers, because they seem to be pumping a lot of money. They're paying Tom Brady's wages. They're doing kind of a lot there at that stage. When you look at the contrast in the Glazers at the Buccaneers to the Glazers at United, like what's the comparison there?
Well, I mean, there's salary caps in the NFL, so that is something that's a little bit different than anywhere else, right? So it's not like they can just go on an absolute spending spree and bring in all the talent that they want, right? There are caps to all these things in the NFL. That being said, it is rare that a Super Bowl winning team brings back all of their starters from the previous season, and Tampa Bay's managed to do that. They managed to do that. So they've made some really good contracts. They've signed some really good contracts. They've convinced people to come back. A lot of that having to do with the fact that Brady's there, obviously, and the man's won Super Bowls. So
he took less money than what he was getting in New England.
Yeah, well, I mean, regardless, even in New England, the thing with Brady was he was never the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, right?
No,
and for a guy who was winning titles like crazy, he never demanded or that type of money because it was more about the team and
that's why
making sure that
exactly and around him.
Right. And so it is a little bit different, right? So like, people keep saying like, oh, it'd be like the same as the Glazers going and get Ronaldo right now. It's like, not really though, because it's Ronaldo, while he's Ronaldo and all of us love him, it's not a like comparison to say that bringing in Tom Brady is like the equivalent of bringing in Ronaldo back to Man United. It's not like, but I will say this much, and Keane's heard me say this, like the NFL over here.
Time in their sports, aren't they? We can both agree on that. Both of them are the greatest of all time in their sports.
You can make that argument. You can make that argument. I'll say this much though. I mean, the NFL over here obviously is a pretty big cash cow, and so the Glazers themselves have tied themselves to two really good franchises, right? You've got Manchester United, who, as Keane heard me say on Adam's show, is a global powerhouse, right? Like, I had said on that, you could go anywhere in this world pretty much and say Manchester United, and most people will know what you're talking about, right? You can't do that with the Tampa Bay Bucks. But here in the States, the NFL pretty much reigns supreme in terms of sports over here. And so
for now,
but they're sitting on a gold mine there because it's in a small market in Tampa, right? They've now won a Super Bowl. They've brought a lot of good big name players into that market. And so arguably if they just continue to make the playoffs for the next couple of years, and although Brady's going to retire hopefully soon, they'll be fine. They'll continue to make their money, right? But it's just stunning to me that they don't put that same level of investment into Manchester United. It's like we are like some
stratospheric. Like we could be
we're literally
any club in world football, but
I like this is almost going on negligence what they're doing, right? Which is just like, it's like you've got this amazing brand and club with this amazing history, and yet you don't want to spend any money, and you're okay with us being viewed as like a mediocre team, more or less. Like, yes, we're second in the table right now, but I don't think anyone is sitting there really scared of Manchester United right now. Like, I think we could be if you give us investment. Yeah, but they don't seem to want to make money.
But the money Anto says there in the comments there, right? Anto says we're not good enough to win both. We're not even good enough to win one of them at the moment, quite frankly. And this is where I bring this back to you. Like, when you actually look at it, right? When you look at Manchester United's squad compared to Liverpool's, right? You compare it to Manchester City's. You even compare United's squad to Chelsea. You go man for man, each and position,
Spurs.
Right?
Spurs beats our squad. Spurs' squad.
We'll find out.
Attack, but its midfield and attack is fantastic.
We'll find out in 10 days.
We'll find out in 10 days. Yeah, but
squad in the league.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck Spurs and fuck Mourinho, right? That's all I'm gonna say anyway, right? But like you look at these teams who are relevant in the top four. Spurs aren't relevant, right? Let's get that straight. They're nowhere near us in the table at the moment. They're not even in the conversation, right? But if you look at the teams who are nearest to us, right? You look at Chelsea, you look at Manchester City, you look at even Liverpool, right? Them squads, man for man, fully fit, right? We're not as good as them squads. Even Spurs to an extent, right? They probably have better attacking players, right? I think we have a better defense than them, but I think obviously in attack, they probably have better players, right? So where is this team, like this Manchester United team, this current team, I agree with Anthony in the comments, is nowhere near capable of challenging for the league title yet. And this is where the owners need to invest in the squad to bring us that next level. But again, it's not going to happen because this ownership is content with getting the Champions League money, finishing top four, and then not making that significant investment, to get Che Adams to score.
Sorry, that Che Adams goal was literally that Che Adams goal was softer than a Haribo, so I just had to see it.
25 yards.
But anyway,
I will say this though, you make a good point. So I was going to come back to that because here's something I've been thinking about for the past since whilst Doug was talking about the NFL and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Right, you look at who they brought in. They brought in the Gronk and they brought in Brady. Right. So that's two phenomenal players they brought in to strengthen the squad. It's experience, it's title-winning players. Do you think because, and I am not defending the Glazers here before anyone actually thinks that, just please listen carefully what I'm saying. Do you think because of what they've done now with the Tampa Bay Bucks this season, where they've won the Super Bowl, it might actually sway them to maybe invest properly in United? Or do you think we've won with the Buccaneers, we'll win another Super Bowl, and then fuck it, that's all we're interested in? Or do you think there actually could be a little thing of we might do something? I don't think they will, but do you think that one Super Bowl may have something in their head?
I'll say this much: the Bucks actually weren't too far off to start with. Like, if anyone knows their team, they had a really good offense, they had a really good defense. They brought in Bruce Arians as head coach. That final piece of the puzzle probably was a winning mentality in a player like Brady who had something left to prove. He wanted to prove that it wasn't just Belichick. So he had a chip on his shoulder to come in and prove that he's still the GOAT. I think Man U right now is a little too far off to just say we're one piece away from going and winning titles.
We're like three or four, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
but that being said,
that's what I was getting at.
But that doesn't give the Glazers the right to not put investment in, though, because with the right investment, we could be only a year away from challenging if you put the right investment in.
Like, if those bell ends pumped in,
the whole panel here. This is a point I'm actually going to give to the whole panel.
Pumped in 200 mil.
Yeah, so this is actually a topic I wanted to bring up just before we actually wrap up. It was actually my last topic. Obviously, we know, kind of quality-wise, right? We know where we need to go in terms of kind of key positions in the squad, right? We obviously know right wing, defensive midfielder, striker, centre back, probably even a striker. They're the positions Manchester United kind of, have to invest in to be even remotely challenging for the league. And obviously, you have to invest in your squad then even, and obviously promote you on top of that. But I'm just going to obviously this summer, right, in a COVID market, you're not going to get all of that, right? Well, not if you're Man United with the way our owners are. If you're Chelsea or Man City, you're getting all that and then some probably, right? But looking at the way Manchester United do things, obviously, we're probably going to be 1 to 2 max, I'd say, in terms of positions that we're going to strengthen on. And then we're probably going to bring back a few loanees and promote a bit of youth, like Hannibal and stuff like that. So I'm going to come to each member of the panel here in terms of where they think we should invest in this summer. Obviously, you can say 4 positions if you like. It's either you obviously know the positions that United need. So I'm going to come to each member because I actually done a transfer show and people know kind of where I sit on this. So I'm going to come to each member.
Is it just listing positions or is it just listing positions? Or do you want us to name like a suggestion of a player?
I'm finishing my question to the panel. So list positions and personnel who we'd like to bring in. So Greg, coming to you first.
Yeah. I think the Sancho deal has to be sort of number one priority for anyone at Man United. Like, it's so nearly happened last year, personal terms and everything like that were agreed. It was just a case of sort of 20 million, and if anything, I think it'd be a very funny way to just stick two fingers up at Borussia Dortmund for turning their nose up at 20 million to then go and get them for 20, 25 million less. Because if you're going to pay 100 million last year and you had it there, you've got no excuse to not have 80 million there now. Because last year was still a COVID market. Okay, it's maybe not as long in that, but the last transfer window was still a COVID market. So I feel like Sancho will get wrapped up shortly after the Euros, and then I feel like we'll target a centre back, someone like Sven Botman or someone like that from Monaco. There'll be a lot of talent coming out of France and going into the Premier League this summer. They've lost like 2 billion euros combined between all the clubs because their TV deal fell through because of COVID. So pretty much any club in France is going to be selling. You've got top players coming out of Monaco, PSG, like young players that are going to go for quite cheap. So I reckon Sven Botman from Monaco would be our best bet at centre half. He's tall, he's strong, can play on the ball a bit. He's got a decent turn of pace, even though for being that size. And he suits our timeline as well in terms of a team. I think that's important when you're signing players. There's no, like, I thought it was quite strange last year when Arsenal went and bought Partey, but then inwardly they're going to bring in Odegaard and they're promoting Saka and Smith Rowe, because by the time that Smith Rowe and Partey are all at their peak, Smith Rowe and Saka are at their peak, they're going to have to replace Partey. So I feel like when you're bringing in the right players, they've got to sort of suit the same timeline, and Sven Botman fits to that timeline as Sancho, Rashford hitting his prime, Greenwood, players like that. Still got Wan-Bissaka and things there as well. So yeah, I think probably 2 players, but I feel like we'll sell as well. I feel like Martial will probably go in the summer. Honestly, I don't know why, I've just got a strange feeling he will. And I feel like De Gea will probably moved on as well, are probably my 2, and then that obviously raise funds also. So yeah, I think right mid and centre back with Sancho and Botman.
Yeah, so right wing and centre back. Doug, where do you sit in this? Do you have any differences?
Yeah, I mean, I think my 2 main things is, and I think, Keane, you've heard me say this, is like building the foundation from back to front, right? And I think right now, my 2 main priorities would be a center back and a CDM for sure, because I think structurally that changes so much in terms of how you play up the pitch, further up the pitch, that right now we don't have that center back that we need that's pacey, that, to Reese's point, can hopefully control the ball a little bit better, or potentially allow Maguire to do his thing, which is maybe play a little bit more advanced. I don't know. The dynamics of those 2 would have to be figured out. I don't think that's maybe the best idea either, because we've seen Maguire as he's advanced up, and sometimes it's not the prettiest thing in the world, right? But regardless, I still think that balance between the 2 center backs would make a huge difference. That being said, then 2, 1 CDM allows us to play a much more progressive midfield pairing. So for me, you do that. I think we've got enough in the youth and in the current squad to get away with mids and forwards that we don't necessarily to make a huge investment right now on that. So summertime, I would be looking definitely at center back and CDM, and then maybe come the winter transfer window, try to fill in some gaps as possible. But then hopefully with these idiots that they haven't really, it's not really a promotion, it's just a change in title, would actually start doing their jobs a little bit better and start planning ahead for the following summer to start actually getting us in positions where within the next 2 years, we've got a much more balanced squad and attack overall, that we're in a better place. But I think all of us can probably say that may or may not happen, more on not happen based on our ownership in the front office. But to your question, it's a center back and a CDM for me.
Yeah, before I actually come to Reese, like obviously I done a transfer show literally like a couple of weeks ago. Literally, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? It was 1 to 2 anyway.
Last
week, I've had so much time off work and I've been so busy I've kind of lost track of time. But like I done a transfer show, and I said like there was 4 key positions United needed to obviously progress, and obviously centre back, centre defensive midfield, right winger, and striker. I'm in complete agreement with Doug. Like for me, you build a spine. Any good team that's won titles, it's a spine all down the middle. And I think when you look at it this season, scoring goals hasn't been a problem. We've scored goals this season. We're until there a couple of weeks ago, we were top scorers in the league. Conceding goals has been a massive, massive issue this season. So for me, obviously you get centre back in and you get a centre defensive midfielder in. I think if you had to do two this summer, that's what you do. I think you get someone in to play in alongside Harry Maguire. Obviously, Koundé would be my choice. He's probably going to cost you north of 80 million, though, by the looks of things after seeing what Fabrizio Romano said today. Koundé is going to cost 80 million. Will Sevilla lower their stance? Maybe we offer an Eric Bailly or something as make weight. Maybe try that. I don't know. You know, that's maybe something you could do. But like for me, I think centre back and definitely defensive midfield. I think defensive midfield makes, if you get a quality or even a good defensive midfielder that's better than Fred and McTominay. Like McTominay could be used as a box-to-box midfielder within the squad next season, because he's not a defensive midfield player. We all know he's not a defensive midfield player. He's a box-to-box. But for me, I think you get a Declan Rice in there. You get someone like that, or you go abroad. Maybe you look at a Sakaria, or you look at someone like that who can come in. I know John says N'Golo Kante in the comments, like Chelsea will not part company with Kante. I just know that for a fact. I'd love N'Golo Kante because he would actually. He would literally be the man to get the best out of Paul Pogba, because we've seen it with France, but it's not going to happen, unfortunately.
I'd like Bissouma
from Brighton is good, but again, he's not a natural defensive midfield player either. So you'd be kind of looking at that and say, like, you know, would that be another kind of McTominay and Fred situation? You know, you're kind of playing two players to cover one position, you know, but.
Yeah, but also Keane, you just said too with like Kante, it's like he plays well with Pogba and France. Look at France's squad though. I mean
I could play in that midfield.
God,
yeah, but it's when you actually look at the single, but when you look at their structure of France's midfield, Kante literally plays as a 6. Pogba literally has the freedom of the world to then just
Fair, but I would say if you bring Kante in, and just because he's links up well with Pogba in France, I would need to see better investment to make sure that pairing does what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
In a
Kante's
Manchester
reputation
United
speaks for itself.
Don't get me wrong, he's fantastic.
Like
he's good.
There's not a lot of top, like in terms of defensive midfielders. It's really hard to find one at that sort of level. Like, obviously, Rice is the obvious one, and using Lingard as make weight for that would make the most sense. I feel like that Lingard news was probably leaked by Man United to get West Ham's attention, or to get like pressure on the West Ham board to sort of sign him permanently. Like, people really overreacted to that story, and I was like, it'll be someone either within Man United or a Manchester United like source, like media source, that's just leaked it, because what it's gonna do is going to force West Ham's hand in some way or another. West Ham have to pay because they think Man United are going to keep him and they really want him. Okay, how much do you want him? Because we want to keep him. Like, it's just simple business. Like, Rice would be the dream, but whether we pull that off, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it just depends on kind of how that gets negotiated. But yeah, they'd be my two, obviously Koundé and Rice, but look how realistic that is, I don't know. I'm just going to come to Ellis's comment. Ellis says, it's loading up fair slow. Got to be Ndidi for me. He's world-class, tackles in the season, allows to play progressive 8. Look, Ndidi is obviously probably the dream, but like United got their pants pulled down for Harry Maguire. I don't think we're ever going to negotiate a deal with Leicester ever again, to be quite honest. I don't think we're ever going to negotiate that football club.
The only deficiency by Ndidi is he's not a great passer of the ball.
Nope.
That's the only thing. He's not a great passer of the ball.
Yeah, he just sort of gets in the way, blocks it, and then doesn't really do much from it. Whereas Rice is...
The only thing I worry if you had Ndidi in the team is that what's he like in the press? Like when the team presses you and we play out from the back. Do you know what I mean? Because he's not a great passer of the ball. He's a great destroyer, but he's not a great passer of the ball. And that's what I worry if you had him in a single midfielder role. Then, like, I think, it's just one of them things. Like, does he have the attributes to play on the ball? I don't think so. I'm going to come to Reece now. Just 1 second. John hits the nail on the head here, and this might
nearly sick. They just brought on McBurney.
John says Rice be some investment, big 6-year contract though. Oh my god, imagine what he's going to be like in a few years. He's a freak. I like him even after he's down to Ireland. That's saying something. Hey, look, John, I said this on a couple of weeks ago on my podcast here. I was like, I put them feelings what he done to Ireland aside, because Ireland are that bad. I don't blame him for switching nationalities, to be quite honest. We're that bad of a country of football at the minute. I'm after putting that aside, especially after watching Ireland during these last kind of couple of weeks during international break. But I'm in total agreement. I think Declan Rice will be look, I think he's the crown jewel. I think if you're bringing someone to really fit that system. But Reese, you've heard all three of us give our opinions on this. Where do you sit?
For me personally, it's three positions. I know striker's one that people need to look at. For me, it's centre back, CDM, and right wing. It just depends on what you go for. I'll be honest, I would take none of the players you have mentioned. None of them.
Oh, you want the Leipzig players?
Oh, aye, man. If I was getting a CDM, I would bring in Konrad Laimer, who is probably one of the best counter-press and high-pressing CDMs right in the market, and he would cost you about 35 million. So there's smart business. Centre-back wise, frankly, you could probably get away with a centre-back in the Premier League. I know a lot of people rave about him. I don't see much in him, but Ben White is a rave for people. I don't know why. I don't think he's that good, but he's a rave. Frankly, I would look elsewhere. Right wing, people say Sancho. I think that opportunity is gone. The only reason I see it gone is I don't see it happening anytime soon. Like the fact that it's Dortmund had the chance to sell him last year, and I think now with the market will eventually start to stabilise. It will eventually recover. I honestly think Sancho will end up in Spain. I don't think he'll come to Manchester. I think if we want to sign someone for the right hand side, you go to someone that's going to be familiar to Bruno. I think you go and activate that release clause. You get Pedro Goncalves.
I see. I knew where you were going with that. To me, it said familiar to Bruno. It's like Pedro Goncalves, yeah.
Like, I think he would be perfect for Man United. He can play as a central midfielder. So you can play him as a midfield 8, or you could play him as a right winger. And he's only going to cost you 51 million from that release clause. So frankly, that's smart business. It just depends on who you get centre back. FIFA head, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Calm your tits, man. FIFA head. I would not get Declan Rice at all.
For me,
I think Sancho's gone. I think Sancho's gone.
I don't think Sancho's good enough right now to play for someone like him.
I think he's good. I just think the opportunity's gone. I don't think he will go to Man United at all.
I think he'd still want to come. Like, he's got to accept that's business. Yeah, he can't always get his way. So.
Yes, that's one of them things, isn't it? But quickly, just before we go, we obviously gave all the positions and all the players who we can get there. But obviously, look, I'm doing the Brighton preview on Friday. That's going to be recorded roughly, I think, 8 p.m. Friday. Leave that with me. I'll let you know on Twitter, guys, as to when that's recorded. I'll let people know who's going to be on the show and stuff like that. But just before we go, I'm going to get quick fire predictions from all of you guys. What's the score going to be in the Brighton game this Sunday, on the lovely Easter Sunday? Hopefully everyone's not hungover when the game is on Sunday. So, Reese, coming to you first. What's your prediction?
1-0 Man United. I think it's going to be close as fuck. I think it's going to be close as fuck, mate.
1-0 United. Greg, are you more positive?
I think it'll be 2-1. I think it'll be a classic, like, post-international break sort of performance. First 10, 15 minutes will be slow. We won't be able to place a pass. They'll probably score, and we'll come back and win 2-1 and score 2 goals in the second half.
Come on, get a fifth.
Yeah. Doug, what's your prediction for Brighton?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 us. I think we get one. I think they chase, and then I think we sneak in a second.
I just hope there's no repeat of the last game.
Doug's confident we're keeping the clean sheet.
I think we will. I mean, we've been playing much better.
Been really good, to be fair. Our defense has been brilliant, and Bruno's not played the last game. Like, Maguire only played 2 games. Rashford hopefully will be hopefully be fit.
I think a big bonus is Bruno got suspended. I don't know if he done it on purpose or something, but I think that's a bonus for us.
Yeah, 100%. And for me,
with American lads.
Yeah, like you look at this, like you see, obviously, Reese has said 1-0, Doug says 2-0, Greg says 2-1. Rory says 2-1 United. Amy, as always, says 2-1 a Bruno brace. Bruno hasn't scored in ages, so yeah, I'm not surprised there, but Bruno hasn't scored in ages, to be fair, so hopefully Amy's right. Ellis says 3-0 United. And John says Brighton are scoring 3-2 United. Well, it's going to the same scoreline that we've seen in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season. I'm going to go 3-1 United. I think this would be a great game to kind of bounce back and kind of get the cobwebs of the FA Cup game. It's kind of typically United. We play well in this game, and then obviously kind of give us some confidence going into Granada in the Europa League. But for I'll go 3-1 United, and I fancy I don't know if Rashford's fit. I should have asked him that when he answered my question on Twitter the other day. I should have said to him, you're going to be fit for Sunday. But just shout out to Marcus Rashford for answering my question the other day. I just hope
there's no repeat of the last game. That's all I hope, because we all know what Bruno did in the last game against Brighton. I don't want to see a repeat of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, if we get a Bruno penalty in the 98th minute, I'll be on Twitter playing pissed. Doug knows this. I'll be on Twitter annoying every little bastard on Twitter. You just know it's coming, like. But yeah, I go 3-1 United, and obviously shout out to Sir Marcus Rashford MBE for responding there on Twitter the other day. But look, I just want to end the show kind of just on another note, just kind of a aside from Manchester United. Obviously, yesterday everyone's aware of the news that Claude, formerly of AFTV and Claude of the Bansters YouTube channel, sadly passed away yesterday. My thoughts and prayers on behalf of everyone from the Weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast go out to his friends and family. We had him on the show a couple of months ago, myself and William, on the London Lowdown podcast. We had obviously the privilege and the pleasure to talk to Claude on the show, and he was someone who is a great personality. He was very nice to talk to. He was funny, and he was very knowledgeable about Arsenal.
I spoke to him briefly once.
Truly loved the football club, and he was someone who obviously he loved his football club, and it's just sad to see. And look, I suppose when you look at this world of social media, like you look at this life in general, you don't know what's going on in people's heads. And look, I think everyone should be kind to each other and just think what you say to people on social media, because you never know when your last day is going to be. So look, I do send my condolences to Claude's friends and family, and I just hope that obviously everyone as well, like everyone minds themselves, and if anyone ever has a problem or anything like that, my DMs are always open to helping anybody. And just always feel like you're never alone. Don't ever feel like you're alone, because there's always someone there to help you. And I think like all the boys here would attest to that. Like any of us would be here for anyone who's struggling. So
minds are never closed.
Open up to anybody if you have any issues, because this is the best thing to do. But on that note, I'm gonna wrap up the show there tonight. Do smash a like in the video, and do subscribe to the channel. The London Lowdown show is back tomorrow, where we have a big preview show tomorrow. So obviously Arsenal and Liverpool are playing the weekend, and so we do have a great panel for that show tomorrow. And so our host Sean Maroney is joined by our two native Arsenal fans on the channel, in William and Gunnar Jen, and also we are joined by Keith Plunkett from the Liverpool Day Trippers podcast as well. So there's a fantastic panel there tomorrow, and to talk about a very big game respectively for both clubs. Both clubs have obviously, they probably have ambitions in terms of where they want to be for the season, but as you always see with Liverpool, it's always a good game of football. There's always goals in the game, so do tune in for that. That promises to be a fantastic show. And thanks to everyone in the comments today as well. You all smash it as usual as well. And as always, do hit that subscribe button, because we've all Manchester United content. I'll be back this Friday with the preview, whether it's by myself or other guests. We'll be there as well. So look, do check that out on Friday. But look, thanks very much everyone for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you later.